Hello, everybody. Brian here with episode 71 of the Daily BLP. Hey, as you can tell here, I'm in a little bit different of a place. I am at the homestead. Had some power issues at our office today, so this morning I was heading out to a meeting up in Green Bay, and my staff gave me a call and said, "Hey, we're packing up to go home. We got about half of the power out. All the network and the servers fine, but half the offices weren't. People would have been." Working in weird places and probably not getting as much stuff done anyway. So I said, the heck with it. Got done with my meeting in Green Bay and came back home and been working here from, as you can see, a place full of absolute distractions. Anyway, I'm here for you now and we're going to do the show. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I can't really tell. It says my mic's working, says my camera's working. So we're just going to go ham on this show and see how it goes. Starting the day off the right way, I found out today with some news stories that showed up in my feed earlier that, hey, Tesla decided yesterday to announce that they were going to be releasing two standard version of their models. Model Y and the Model 3 are now going to have a standard model coming out. I think the 3 standard's gonna come out October, November-ish, maybe a little bit November, December, because it's October now, and then probably December, looking a little bit more like January for that Model Y version. Those prices are going to be down, I would say quite a bit from those normal sale models. Looks like the MSRP on the Model 3 is going to be right around $37K, and for the Model Y right around $40K for a small SUV slash, I would say it's a station wagon, but that's not cool. But it's a station wagon. So great little cars. Range is important for those electric cars. It's going to be in between 300 and 400 miles, a little bit closer to 3 probably, and depending on the weather and the season, better or worse than that. So they're going to be getting rid of a few features that people, I guess, may or may not need at that price point. Things like options for auto steer, fewer screens, not having screens in the back, simplified. The interiors are already simplified, honestly. If there's not a more kind of simply made, somewhat elegant interior on the market, I don't know what it is. It's been a while since I drove a Tesla. I drove a Model S years back. But I don't think they've really changed much as far as kind of their build out and their simple design philosophy, which is fine. Less things to break, less things to get dirty, easier to clean. Right away on Monday, the stock was up, I think 5%, and it's dropped back down 4%. So it's, net 1 right now, if my math is correct, is where it should be. But I don't know, maybe that muddies the water a little bit in their, in their catalog. Some people might say that putting a cheaper option out makes the medium to high options a little less desirable, and that's going to cannibalize itself. I don't really see that as the case. A lot of people, I think, probably want to have these types of cars, but the price point is one big factor. High price point is something that hold a lot of people back from getting a Tesla. That and, whether it's, not believing in the technology yet, or the range isn't quite enough for what their use case is, and maybe they're driving a lot. But, with that being said, I don't know. I don't think it's going to cannibalize the people who want the more options, who want the better features. They're going to buy those just like they do with any other brand of automaker. So I think they're going to be just that. That's fine. This would make someone who, let's say, needed a second or third car that gets better mileage, have a better option for getting something, in the electric world. If they didn't want to invest in some of the other automakers, like Hyundai's got a lot of options, Kia's got a lot of options, Honda, everybody's got an electric option now, but none of them are quite Tesla. Tesla would still say, when it comes to the electric option, is what people consider the pinnacle. Whether that's true or not, I haven't driven any other electric car models. I wouldn't know. But, for someone who someday, might want to have a small fleet of electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles or, high mileage uh, gas vehicles to have their technicians running around the field helping clients in, getting a quality car like a Tesla for 37K or even a couple grand more for one like the Model Y and have a little bit more, maybe more room to cart things around, um, and not have to worry about uh, giving people gas cards. If I can if I can keep a technician under 300 miles a day, which it shouldn't be difficult, even though we cover a pretty wide area. But a lot of times what I'm seeing when I'm going to some of these other places, especially some of our clients, they have employee or guest options for charging. So, I mean, if I could put a technician in an electric car that's fully juiced beginning of the day, maybe they got to go 100 miles to a client far away, and there's an option for them to plug a little bit and get a little bit of charge while they're there for an hour or two, and then get on the road and put a few more miles and come back. And even if they would just went there and back, usually they're not doing, 400 or 500 miles in a day if they were doing the miles anyway. So, but leasing or financing a vehicle at 40K for 3 years, for a fleet car, if it could be something like that, that might be an option. I'm not going to put a technician in a $50,000 car. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But it is what it is. I don't know. Let me know, guys, if you've driven a Tesla. If Matt was going to come today, I was going to ask him. I'm not sure if everybody's probably ridden in one. I don't know if anybody's ever driven one. It's an interesting experience. If all you've ever driven is a standard gas or hybrid car, it's a completely different experience from the acceleration to the braking to the sound. It's strange, but I'm sure you get used to it over time. Yeah, moving on. Next up, hey, it's day 7 of the 2025 U.S. government shutdown. Hello, everybody. 7 days through, full 7-day week of a lot of people furloughed. Big thing that sounds like it's being covered today is whether or not people are going to get back pay. Uh, in a perfect non-fallen world, we wouldn't be working. But I struggle getting behind. I struggle getting behind someone who says, if you're furloughed and you're locked out, you can't work because of whatever the conditions might be, that you should be getting paid for sitting and waiting to be able to come back to work. I can't get behind that. I've been an employee. I've been furloughed. I've been not paid for a number of weeks and had to come back and have things start up again. I've lost my job. Yeah, I've been unceremoniously permanently furloughed from a couple different jobs before, and it's tough. I mean, there's things like unemployment. I remember I must have still been in college and I was working full time. Maybe it wasn't full time. I can't remember, but I remember maybe it was. Yep. And I wasn't fired. My position was eliminated, and this is in between working for the Boys and Girls Clubs and then start going and working for UPS for a summer part time. But I had unemployment for a couple months, and I was looking for jobs, having to report that stuff in, and unemployment is meant to just barely make the ends meet. It's not supposed to make you comfortable. You should be able to eat, maybe pay your rent so you don't get too far behind, but it's supposed to just be enough to where you get your butt out there and you find something that is worth a lot more. I'm not saying people who are getting furloughed from their government jobs should go out looking for new jobs. Maybe this is a wake up sign that you want to work in an industry or in a vertical that's not going to happen, where you have more control over that. But I mean, I don't know. Folks that see this, let me know. Drop a comment. If you disagree with me, that's totally okay. But as someone who hasn't been an employee for a while and someone who's on the other side of the leadership aisle, I think everybody in a company is a leader in their own way, but who's on that side of the leadership aisle that has to make decisions about hiring, firing, and paying people, it's really hard to convince me to pay people to not work. You know what I mean? Like, um, maternity leave, I'm all about it, even though it's still painful. It's for business owners, especially for small business, maybe not. It's not as painful enough. You can absorb that kind of stuff in a big enterprise, huge business, but in a small business, it's hard to absorb. And I believe me, I love it when you know families are growing and babies are being had and moms get to do that, but um, you know but it's tough on a company. Let's say one of your best, most important links in the company chain is a mom and she's about to have a baby, and you're going to lose her for the next 90 days. But you still got to pay her, but you get none of the awesome things that she was doing for you at work, getting results for the company. You know, the employer employee exchange is that you agree to get a specific set of work done, employer agrees to pay you for said work, right? Not There's no agreement in there that says, hey, if you do this, I'm going to pay you more later. And it's this for this. And if that employer is paying you on time, like clockwork, and you're doing a great job, the agreement is in full effect and working perfectly. Um, it's not easy for a company to take the load of an employee that can't work for a while, for whatever the reason. I'm not saying I don't support, so don't get it twisted. I'm saying that I don't support uh, um, maternity leave, even paternity leave. I mean, I think it's situational. Maybe a couple weeks. Yeah, dad needs to be there for mom and stuff like that. But uh, that's an even tougher sell for me. I can be swayed, I suppose, but it's it's a huge factor. The smaller the company, the tighter the team, the more you rely on each other to get things done. The harder it is if that key member of the team is removed, but you still have to pay for that person's life for nothing in return, right? That's that's a huge benefit of employment that should not be, let's say, a right. A lot of people think, hey, it's my right to get maternity or paternity leave. Well, not necessarily. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, there's laws that, and they're not for effect, so people don't take advantage of it and leave people out to dry. I mean, there wouldn't be one instance where if I had an employee that was female and she was about to have a baby, needed to be off for 90 days or whatever it was, if that person came to me and said, hey, Brian, this is what I need. Okay, we'll take care of you. Don't worry. We need you to be with that baby and then be 100% when you get back and ready to come back, right? But it doesn't mean it's an easy decision, and I got down the road, to this from the furlough. I just don't want people to think that I don't take this seriously. It's, I would never not pay someone for maternity leave, right? Let's just take that off the table. But what I am trying to say is it's such, it's used so flippantly now, you know, like a small business has a maternity fund, you know, and no, you should not hire someone that's female because she might get pregnant someday. That's not good either. But anyway, back to this furlough thing. Again, it's a tough situation, but I would say that if you've been, it's like getting laid off. You know, typically, it's funny. There's government programs to help people while they're laid off or things like that, right? But in a furlough situation, there's some government employees that technically they're furloughed, they can't get paid, but they still are required to work. They should absolutely get their back pay. But I'm a big proponent of you're paid for the work you do or the results you get, depending on the job, right? And you're not necessarily paid for time. Time is what is expended in the process of getting the work done. But just showing up, being there, going home at the end of the shift, I don't have any jobs that I need people to do that for. There's some jobs like that where you're just sitting at a desk, Your job is to look at that screen and make sure nothing dumb happens. Okay, security, whatever. That's you're doing something. There's a result. You're not asleep, right? So um, maybe that's controversial. I don't know, but uh, you know, it's like the apparently there's some stuff going around that says there's been some legal studies done that maybe legally the government isn't responsible for paying people back pay during furlough. I think a lot of times whoever's on the side that's trying to make sure that there's pain in a government shutdown so that the other side does what they want them to do. It's kind of what both sides are doing, I guess. But I think one side, the Democrats, they're counting on the pain that all these people are going through, not getting paid right now and work. They're counting on the fact that eventually, they're going to come back to work and they're telling all these, don't worry, you're going to get paid. So just hold the line, right? And then the other side is saying, well, we might not even have to pay them. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We shall see. We shall see. But either way, Democrats, stop trying to spend so much money. Republicans, have a look. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the Republicans because I think they should be even tougher than they are. Honestly, I really do. I think everything's just so out of whack when it comes with the size of the government and the money that we spend. Your money, my money that the government spends, and they tell us they're doing one thing and it's not really what's happening. I think, it started out hot and heavy with the whole Doge stuff, and then it got cold, and it's been cold ever since. It's been maybe not cold, lukewarm, and be hot or cold, don't be lukewarm, right? So that's that. What else we got as far as? Yeah, I think that's about it. I've beat that dead horse pretty well and good. So let's move on, right? All right, so last segment of the day, let's talk a little MLB baseball. So technically we're outside of I always call this round one, even though technically the wild card round is round one, so this is technically round two of the playoffs. So we've got four pairs of teams playing right now. On the National League side, we've got what do we got? We got the Dodgers and the why can't I think? Oh yeah, Dodgers and the Phillies. Let's take a look real quick at the bracket here. Screen, playoff bracket share. So here's what it looks like right now. Getting cut off a little bit, and I can't see the edge of my screen. There we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, so postseason picture here. We got Dodgers and the Phillies. Dodgers are leading 2-0. Yeah, I haven't seen. This is the one of the four different series is going on right now that I haven't watched at all or watched any highlights, so I can't comment on it too much. It's best of five, so it's gonna. LA played 2 games at home. They're gonna go back to They're gonna go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a good chance of winning with home field advantage for the next 2 games, so we'll see. But the tiebreaker goes back to the higher seeds game. So down at the bottom of the bracket on the National League is the one I'm paying most attention to via the hat. You can see here is the Brewers and the Cubs. The interesting thing about this is the way it played out. They're already rivals. I mean, it is, the 2 towns are less than an hour apart. So Milwaukee's like the redheaded stepchild, or the little brother that Chicago is used to beating up on when it comes to where the rubber meets the roads in games that matter. But this year it's been a little bit different. I don't know what the stat is right now on the regular season meetups and how many wins and losses each had, but Milwaukee leads the series right now 2-0. Game 1, the Brewers just came out and pummeled them. I think it ended up 9-3 or something like that. It could be a little bit off, but last night Cubs came out hard, jumped up on the lead right away in the first inning. Brewers came back, tied it up, took the lead, and I think it ended up maybe 7-3 or something like that. Maybe they scored a couple more runs after that. But the Brewers are looking strong. They got to go back to Wrigley and pull out at least one of these next 2 games to end it, or it's going to come back to Milwaukee for a game 5. But at least even if they split their home games, or not split their home games, so even if they hold serve at each of their stadiums, that the last game's got to come back to Milwaukee. But let's just not have that happen. Let's just sweep the series and move on to the NLCS, right? Over on the American League side, we've got the Yankees and the Blue Jays. I gotta give myself a Blue Jay hat. I love the Blue Jay logo. I think it's pretty sweet. I just learned today. My son, sweet is apparently a Y2K slang word. We don't say that anymore, but I think everybody knows what I mean. But so the Blue Jays are up 2-0. I didn't get to watch the game, but I watched the highlights. Blue Jays look strong in this recent game, especially up to 5 innings. They had a no-hitter going, and then they pulled the pitcher. I think save his arm and things like that. They're gonna have to use this guy, and they don't want to burn him in one full game. Next couple innings and pitchers, the Yankees pulled back to within, I think, 5. I think they ended up like 13-7. The Blue Jays ended up winning, but there was one inning there where the Yankees really pulled back, and that just goes to show you when you got the power and your ability to hit, if you turn it on, things can happen quick. And then Detroit and the Seattle game is tied up 1-1. Seattle looks like they want to surprise some people this year. They had a really good record this year. I think they obviously being the number 2 seed, they're favored to beat Detroit. But Detroit's had such a good team the last few years that I think in people's minds they see them as the more experienced veteran team and the one most likely to pull out a victory in the playoffs. And it's kind of like what's happened to Brewers the last 6 or so years, is they come in strong and then they just put up duds in the playoffs. Seattle's a similarly type built to the Brewers, more of like kind of Moneyball 2.0-ish, right? They play an old school type of high statistical analysis and doing a few things, not so much relying on the barrels of the bat to win the games. But series is tied right now, and something interesting happened. So I'm watching the highlights to the Seattle game, and I talk about banana ball, right, a lot, right? So that's my up and coming sport. But it was kind of cool what I noticed. I'm watching the highlights and I'm kind of like getting some work done, paying attention and rewinding when I'm hearing things I should know about. But then I see this happen. You got to see this. You got to see this. Look what I saw happen at the Seattle game. Not sure who this dude is. Maybe he's somebody important, but banana ball hat, guys, right there. Savannah Bananas getting repped on the game 2 of the Seattle Detroit ALDS games right here. The guys are going crazy because I think this is the play where Seattle either tied it or took the lead, so they're just going nuts there. And yeah, there you go. Banana balls creeping in everywhere. You can't get away from it, even when they cut to the fans. You should be seeing a Seattle hat here. It's a Seattle home game. But what do you see? Got to see the Savannah Bananas hat, right? I'm telling you, don't sleep on the Bananas or any of the other teams in banana ball. And I think recently, one of the last 2 games of the season, they were here at this stadium and sold it out 2 nights in a row. This guy was probably at the game. But anyway, I thought I would share that pretty cool little find there. Go Bananas. Anyway, exciting series right now in Major League Baseball, mainly because the Brewers are still in. I like baseball in general, but a lot of times what happens is when you're not in that market or there's not like a good Cinderella story, I generally don't pay too close attention because it just takes a lot of time to sit down and pay attention when I got to be doing other things. But hey, this show was fun. We are creeping up right to the end of the episode today. But yeah, just a quick recap. Day 7 of the of the government shutdown. Maybe it'll come back tomorrow. We'll see. Or we'll be talking about what's going on in day 8. Tesla, a couple new models coming out. Not very exciting, just cheaper and stripped down versions, but still options. Everybody likes options. And then the ALDS and the NLDS in full swing. 3 of the 4 series is the higher. Oh no, 2 of the 4, the higher seeds are up 2-0. One of them, the lower seed, is up 2-0, and the other series tied. So we'll see what happens when we come back tomorrow. But all that being said, thanks everybody for spending some time with me. I know you got a lot of places, a lot of things you could be doing right now, but I do appreciate you joining me here for the Daily BLP. This has been episode 71. Can't believe there's already been 71 episodes, but the days just march on like ants, right? So everybody, thanks again for really appreciate that.